37 are there.
Yes, we can. Ma'am, can we start with Jonathan?
And then,
Yeah, ma'am.
Absolutely. I think I'm ready to go as long as the part is.
Yeah,
okay.
we can.
So,
I think we can start with Asha. We are ready with our class. Asha would be our student moderator. So Hari sir, over to you.
Yes,
Over to you.
Hello, good evening, one and all. Welcome to 11th Gen Next classroom of EMW. In the normal classroom, students and teachers alone will be present. But here, many teachers, trainers, eminent personalities in the field of law and ADR methods, world-reputed scholars and writers also present, along with the pan-India students of law. I welcome you, one and all, sincerely. Before introducing our teachers today, may I please introduce Asha Purna as a student moderator of today's class. Asha ji, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining for today's class. My name is Asha Purna Veti. I'm a first-year law student at CUSAT Cochin. I will be a student moderator for today's class. Today is our 11th class of EMW classroom series on the topic Pre-Mediation Advocacy, which will be taken by Laila, Olappally ma'am and Jonathan Rodriguez sir. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm using this opportunity to thank, on behalf of everyone, Pushpa ma'am and Tangachan sir for giving us such a great platform to expand our knowledge with the greatest faculty possible. And I kindly request all of you to turn your camera on during the session and mute your microphone if you don't have any questions. And if you have any questions, you can put that in the chat box below so that I can refer it at the end of the session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Hari sir.
Yes, it's a great pleasure and privilege for me again to introduce the great celebrity in the field of ADR and especially in mediation, who after serving about 30 years in the High Court of Karnataka and Supreme Court of India, captivated by mediation in 2007 after being invited by then Chief Justice of Karnataka High Court to serve as a founder, coordinator of Bangalore Mediation Center, and became the founder of CAMP Arbitration and Mediation Practice, which is recognized by the Government of India. She herself is a brand for mediation. Today, she is our Gen Next classroom teacher. Welcome, Laila Olappally madam.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Laila ma'am serves as a panel member of Singapore International Mediation Center, Kyoto, International Mediation Center and ADR Center, Italy. And Laila ma'am is a member of International Advisory Board of Global Mediation Panel, UNDP. She extensively trains judges, lawyers, that is advocates, and on mediation and negotiation. And today, it's our privilege and proud to be students of Madam Laila Olappally in this Gen Next Pan India classroom series. Thank you so much, madam, for your kind, gracious presence and teaching us and guiding us in this field of mediation. We have with us another expert who pursued his LLM in mediation and conflict resolution at a university in Glasgow, and founder of an organization, PACT, dedicated to mediation, awareness and education, Mr. Jonathan Rodriguez. We welcome you, Sir Jonathan. He is also associated with CAMP, Arbitration and Mediation Practice, along with Madam Laila Olappally. Hearty welcome, Jonathan. And with this short introduction, I request Madam Olappally to start the session. And students, please be attentive and follow the class. It's a great privilege and it will be memorable class for the life. Thank you so much. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. You've given me more credit than I deserve. Anyway, so I'm very privileged to be here with students because I feel they are the next generation. And Push and your team, it's really a wonderful thing that you're doing. So congratulations. And I think this is a very relevant generation, a generation that needs to understand this, because I think the world is realizing the relevance of collaboration. Everywhere there is that awareness. Today, collaboration is the way to go. In fact, neuroscience says that the human brain, over the process of evolution, has evolved best now for a collaborative pursuit. So we are the right generation for this. In 1906, when a famous Harvard professor, Roscoe Pound, I suppose you may have heard of him, when he predicted that if the administration of justice is dominated by the adversaries, keeping people as opponents, if that is the trend, then there will be a crisis in the administration of justice. People laughed at him. This was in 1906. In 1976, there was a crisis in America. Dependency increased. And another Harvard professor, Frank Sanders, came out with this concept of multi-door courthouse system, where every courthouse, he said, should have different doors depending on the appropriateness of each case. You send it to litigation, arbitration, mediation. Be mindful of what you're doing. What is the case and how relevant is the dispute resolution for that case? So today, mediation, I would say, is becoming a disruptive innovation. You know what a disruptive innovation is? It's a term in business, in the science of business. When there is an invention which comes and disrupts everything else, changes the value of everything else, it's called a disruptive innovation. Like Airbnb came into the hotel industry, changed the landscape. Or like the internet came, and how, look at us, all of us are learning on the TV, internet. Shopping is done on internet. It changed the landscape. And that's what mediation is going to do to your generation. You can be a mediator or you can be an advocate in mediation. And today, our focus is how you young law students will become an advocate in mediation. So I will start with it in order to help you understand how you pursue this skill, the story of the 3 blind men with an elephant. You've heard of that? There is an elephant in a place where there are no elephants. Somebody brought an elephant. 3 men were blindfolded and taken to the elephant. One felt the leg of the elephant and said, "Oh, elephant is like a tree." And the other felt the trunk of an elephant and said, "Elephant is like a snake." And the other felt the body of the elephant and said, "Oh, elephant is like a mountain." All 3 are right. In their blindness, they only saw what they felt. Now, those of us in the dispute resolution or in mediation will tell you that this is what happens in conflict. Each one sees what they experience. And when you become an advocate for your client, remember that your client is only seeing one part of the story. Elephant is a distinct animal, a different animal. But your client is not lying. The fact is, he has felt one part of it. He has experienced one part of the story, and therefore this is how he is responding. So keep that in your mind when you are an advocate in mediation. Advocate in court, in litigation, no, you are just going after what your client has seen, and you're establishing what your client has seen as the right. So the adversarial system is right and wrong, adversaries. My client is right, your client is wrong. Whereas mediation is assisted negotiation. I think you have already been, you've had classes to show how mediation is assisted negotiation. And in negotiation, what we do is help parties find mutually acceptable solutions. So we cannot poison the well. Both parties have to drink from that well. And only if both parties agree there is a solution. So when we represent our clients in mediation, we have to remember this is negotiation and both parties have to be satisfied in order to find a solution. So your whole mindset has to be one of collaboration. And what are the skills that we need for that? Number one, listening skills. Our law schools teach us to be powerful speakers, to be influencers. That's what you need in the adversarial system. In mediation, you listen to understand. What is your party wanting? What is the other side wanting? So the kind of listening skill that advocates in mediation need to have is on another level. You have to listen to the emotion. Behind all emotions lie a set of unmet needs. What is that unmet need? You have to listen to your parties to understand what that unmet need is. You have to listen at the level of position, at the level of interest, at the level of emotion. Only then you understand your party fully. But not only your party, when you're listening to the other side, similarly, you are listening to understand their positions, their interests, their underlying needs. So one important skill, listening, which you will use tremendously in your advocacy in mediation. It needs self-reflection. As a human being, you have to connect to other people. You have to connect with them to help them move towards a resolution. You have to know yourself, self-reflection. You have to empathize. That other client is also required for my solution. So empathy is required. You need your client. You need to protect your client. At the same time, solution comes if both of them agree. So the way you approach advocacy is with empathy, compassion, and at the same time, your legal skills. That's also required. It's overlapping. These skills are overlapping. They are complementary, but it is a different skill and you have to think about it. So in this environment of helping two opponents to collaborate and to find a solution, what is the kind of advocacy you need? Number one, I will deal with the general aspects and Jonathan will go into the details. As an advocate, you need to know what is your client's goal. If your client is actually looking for a resolution, but fostering a lot of adversarial stuff, you should be able to talk to them and find out what is their goal. So connecting to your clients, understanding their goals. Is this case suitable for mediation? If a client is looking at, is excise industry applicable to the construction, excise tax applicable to construction industry? That's not a kind of case that you can mediate. So you should be able to distinguish what is the right case for mediation. Is this relevant for mediation at all? Then you need to know how to suggest mediation. How to suggest mediation to your client, because when clients come to us, they are to us as lawyers, they are angry, they are ready to fight. Their competitive assumption is very strong. Under that situation, how do you suggest mediation to your clients? That's another skill, and you need to learn that skill, how to suggest mediation. So this is how you suggest mediation. Once the clients have accepted mediation, the next step, you prepare for negotiation. You prepare for assisted negotiation. We can call it the pre-mediation advocacy. How do you prepare? Keeping in mind fully the fact that the negotiation of the clients earlier has failed. They tried to negotiate earlier. A dispute is an outcome of failed negotiation. So here now, they are coming with a history of failed negotiation. So pre-mediation advocacy is trying to understand how you set in place everything that's required for a good negotiation. Who are the people that should be there? What are the documents that they should have? What's the kind of information they should have? Because all this is required for them to take an informed decision at mediation. So pre-mediation advocacy is about setting the table for the right kind of negotiation. Preparing your parties. How do you prepare your parties? Tell them about mediation. Understand them, understand their emotions. Help them. Parties are central to the mediation. They are the ones who take the decisions. So parties are central to the mediation. And advocates are coaches. You coach the party to negotiate. So as I often say, the advocate in mediation, vis-a-vis the advocate in trial, the advocate in trial is a gladiator. You're fighting for your parties. The advocate in mediation is a coach. You're coaching your parties to negotiate. So there is a difference. You have to be familiar with negotiation techniques. So one important part of mediation advocacy is, do you know how to negotiate? Learn how to negotiate. The parties have their negotiation has
Thankanjan sir, can you just mute yourself? Just mute your mic.
Today.
Mr. Thankanjan, can you please mute your mic?
Yes.
The admin person can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. And at the same time, the lawyers prepare for a good presentation. Mediation, advocacy in mediation, you have to look at it as a cusp between a big commercial negotiation and arguments in court, final arguments in court. It is somewhere in between. As a lawyer, when you go into a mediation, prepare for a big commercial negotiation. At the same time, prepare for your arguments in court, your final arguments. Advocacy in mediation is a cusp between these two. So it's a lot of skills that you have to have, and you prepare. How will you present in the mediation? All these are factors that you will prepare before the mediation. When you come into mediation, how are you going to prepare? In mediation, always remember, you cannot poison the well. If you poison the well, other side is going to get angry with you and walk away. You will not go to buy an apartment and fight with the person who sells you the apartment. You will go and win him over. You will persuade him or her. So the style is persuasive and not aggressive. The kind of negotiation, which is very important, and I really cannot stop emphasizing how important it is, principled negotiation. There's a wonderful book, Getting to Yes, by Roger Fisher and William Ury, which is a thin book, but we should all read that in order to understand principled negotiation. The elements of principled negotiation. Number one, separate the people from the problem. The other person, your so-called opponent, don't go attacking him. Don't make him angry. At the same time, look at the problem. Why is he asking for 50 lakhs? Does he have documents to support his claim of 50 lakhs? Does the law support it? Does he have a precedent? Is he justified legally? Separate the people from the problem. Be soft on the people and hard on the issue. That is the concept. So, soft on the, be very respectful to the person who is there, but get your documents. If support substantiates support, all that is required. And your tone should be that, not aggression. So first concept of principled negotiation, separate the people from the problem. Second concept, focus on interest, underlying interest. As you listen, what is the underlying interest? What are their needs, their concerns, their goals, their priorities? I'm sure you've already done this, but that's the second element of a principled negotiation. Focus on interest. The third element is always create multiple options. Don't go saying, I want this. Remember, two people have to agree. So you have to keep on adjusting. How do you adjust? Keep on fine tuning. I think of that Rubik cube that you play with. You keep on adjusting till both parties' interests are satisfied. So you have to create multiple options. And the fourth element is have objective criteria. There should always be objective criteria. That is, when you go and say, I want 50 lakhs, you should be able to say that's the market value. The sub-registrar's rates, the circle rate is X, and that is why I want 50 lakhs. Objective criteria, because people want fairness. So these are the four elements that you need for a principled negotiation and mediation. Of course, at the same time, you present your law, the legal analysis. So negotiation in mediation is under the shadow of the law. So this is the meaning of that. You have the law and negotiate. So that is what you do during mediation, and that's your advocacy during mediation. There is a lot of what you've learned in your adversarial skills, but in a manner that it is principled. So essentially, these are and I would say that lawyers in mediation are the sword and the shield. You're a sword because you ensure that the settlement is legal, you ensure that it is enforceable, you ensure that there's no prejudice to any trial if the case goes back to court. So you're a sword. At the same time, you're a shield. You're the calming, the modifying influence. If your client is seeing the glass half empty, you are the person who helps the mediator to shift and see the glass half full. You are the communicator. You help in the communication. You are seeing both perspectives. So it's a lawyer in mediation is both a sword and a shield. And there are impasses. You've learned about impasse. There are bottlenecks that keep coming up, and lawyers with experience will be able to break those impasses. So in mediation, what are we doing? We are creating a professional team to help parties resolve their disputes, not determine what is right or wrong. Is that okay? Thank you. Any questions?
If the participants have any questions, you can ask now.
Good. In which case, Jonathan will go into the technicalities of mediation.
Madam, good evening. My name is Rangnath, madam, from Vijayanagar Law College, Handpur. Madam, I have one question here. So, whether in the mediation, in the advocate, on behalf of the party, can he able to negotiate with the on behalf of the party, or the party should negotiate the things, madam?
Where does the solution lie in mediation? Who carries the solution? Who takes the decision in mediation?
Parties, madam.
Parties. It lies within them. There is a famous story of this drunk person under the street light, crawling on his paws and looking for something. A policeman walks by and asks him, "What are you looking for?" And he says, "My keys." And the policeman asked him, "Where did you drop your keys?" He said, "I dropped the keys inside the house." "Why are you looking for it here?" "Because the light is here." You as counsel may have good solutions that you've thought about, but what the actual solution lies in the parties. So you have to always work with the parties. You are a coach, you are not the actual negotiator.
Thank you, madam.
Neither the mediator nor the lawyers know as well as the parties themselves.
Madam, good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Yes, madam. I am Ravichandra here. Anantapur Vijayanagar Law College, madam, law student. Madam, before mediation means pre-mediation, the advocate act as a mediator here. Suppose if the dispute in the court already, suppose the court will be rendered to take the mediation by the pressure of the court or by compelled by the court, how can an advocate take the mediator act as a mediator in between the parties? Suppose.
So, have I got your question?
One advocate, how can I take as a mediator? Yes,
so, you would have learned that mediator is a neutral third party, right?
Yes, madam. Yes, exactly.
It's a neutral third party. Okay. If you are advocate for party A, how will party B share confidential information with you? So you cannot act any person who's not absolutely neutral, neither you or anybody who has any personal, professional, commercial interest in the dispute can act as a mediator. Mediator has to be completely neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can I hand over to Jonathan now? Yes? Anybody, any other questions? Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Laila,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll see you hopefully in half an hour's time.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, so I'm going to keep my video off because I'm really struggling with my internet. And Ashapurna, if at all you cannot hear me, then please just let me know, and I'll try and fix what's going on my side.
Yes, sir, I'll let you know, sir. No worries, sir.
For the benefit of everyone, I put my beautiful face on the screen so you know who's speaking to you. It's very difficult to follow Laila when she's speaking first, but I'm going to try my best. I want to get started with a very simple question to you. Laila has explained to you what's the role of the mediator, what's the role of the lawyer in a mediation, right? So a simple question to you then is, if I had to ask you to describe, or rather to associate one adjective, just one adjective to a lawyer in a mediation, what is that adjective would you associate to a mediation lawyer, to a lawyer who represents his or her client in a mediation? What is that one adjective that you would put down there? Can you put it in the chat boxes? I want to see if everyone can just type that adjective out in the chat box. How would you describe a mediation lawyer in one word? Use any adjective that comes to your mind and put it in the chat box. Can I have some responses in the chat box? How would you describe a mediation lawyer in one word? There is nothing right and nothing wrong. Just go for it. Okay. Impartial says empathetic, nice. Patient, yes. All right. Anyone else? Trustworthy. And I hope the organizers are making notes of all these beautiful adjectives that are coming across, because this can be a nice infographic by itself. Anything else? Any other way you would describe a mediation lawyer after having heard what Laila just said to you? Solution oriented, nice. Some of you are giving this a really deep thought on a Saturday evening, which is nice to see. Planning, I'm not quite sure I understand that. Listening skills, yes, someone who listens empathically. All right, and I'm sure there are countless of other adjectives that you could put to what how you would describe a lawyer in a mediation setting. And why do I ask you this? Because if you are convinced that you need to be impartial, that you need to be empathetic, that you need to be patient, that you need to be trustworthy, that you need to be solution oriented, that you should have good listening skills, that you should create multiple solutions for the parties, if you are convinced already, then half the work is done. All right, half the work is done if you are convinced that this is your role. If you are not convinced that this is your role, then this mediation is going to be a struggle, because you as a mediation lawyer don't understand your role firstly. Okay, so it's important for you to be convinced of what your role is. And all of us are film buffs, right from Kashmir to Cochin to from Kutch to Kohima. We are all film buffs, and therefore I think we all understand what I mean when I say in a mediation the lawyer plays the supporting role, the supporting cast. You're no longer the lead actor. Okay, you're now suddenly the supporting actor. And are you convinced of that? Are you capable enough, or are you able enough to play that role? Are you at peace with yourself to say, you know what, this is not where I play the lead role. When I'm in court and when I need to argue for my client, I am playing that lead role. But here's my client who says he wants to try, or she wants to try mediation before they go to court, where they want me to play the lead role. But now they want to try mediation for a few hours or a few weeks or a few months and say, let's try this out via dialogue. I have to be convinced that during mediation, I'm no longer playing the role of the lead actor. I'm now suddenly playing the role of the supporting cast, where my client becomes the lead actor. My client takes those calls, my client's making those final decisions, right? So if you're convinced of this, then as I say, half the work is done, all right? Because then comes the second part, which is preparation. And that's the whole point of today's class, right? It's about what do you do before the mediation starts, pre-mediation advocacy. The answer lies in the question, preparation. Okay, you got to prepare 3 people before you go into that mediation. One is you got to prepare yourself, you got to prepare your client, and you got to prepare the mediator. All right. So how do you prepare yourself? As I said right in the start, you need to be convinced of your role. You need to be convinced of what is expected out of you at the end of the day. All right. If you have to do research on this particular issue, then you have to do research as if you were researching for a court case. The preparation does not change, whether you're a litigation lawyer or a mediation lawyer. Because as you said, you've just told your client, they're going to give this 100% to try and sort this out in the next few weeks in mediation or the next few months in mediation. But if it does not settle, I always have the chance to take over the mantle, be your lead actor, and go fight it out in court. All right. So therefore, I'm going to prepare as if I'm preparing for court. So you have to prepare your research. You have to find out what your precedents are. You have to figure out what different courts have said about different things. You have to see how the law has been updated. What are your chances in court? How has a particular court behaved with this kind of cases? You do all kinds of research that you need. Maybe you even need to mentally prepare. As Laila was saying that, you can be stuck in court for hours as a litigation lawyer from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if you have a mediation from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., you have to spend that half an hour or that 1 hour between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. mentally preparing for your mediation. If you do not take off your litigation hat and put on your mediation hat, then you're going to struggle in that mediation. So you need to make sure you're mentally prepared.
Can you mute Sir Ronak Chowdhury?
Yeah, the perks of technology. All right, so let's get back to it. So mentally prepare yourself. If you need to meditate, and some of you might laugh at this, that, oh, why do you need to meditate? I'm a hardcore lawyer. I don't need that. I can just literally remove one hat and put on the other hat within 10 seconds. Trust me, it does not work. You can fake it, but after some time, all the fakeness goes away, because when everything is fine, you can probably do well. But when things get very heated up and there's tension in the room and there's an impasse, that's when you will lose your cool and you will forget that you're in a mediation and you'll turn into someone who is an adversarial litigation lawyer. But if you're mentally prepared, even if you spend 5-10 minutes in reflection, maybe you can be much more calmer when you're getting into that mediation. So pre-mediation requires a lot of preparation, self-preparation. Then you need to spend time preparing your client, telling your client that, making your client understand what his or her chances are in court compared to what could be achieved in this dialogue, right? So you want to spend time with that. You want to spend time strategizing with your client. How much of information do you want to reveal? When would you like to reveal this information? With whom would you like to reveal this information? Would you want to reveal it publicly to the other person, or would you want to discuss it only with the mediator? So you're strategizing all these things right before the mediation starts. You cannot come unprepared to a mediation. You can ruin the case for your client, okay? Because the other side might be coming just to gather information. Not everyone participates in a mediation with goodwill. And therefore, a good mediation lawyer strategizes. How much do we reveal until we build trust? How do we know when we have earned the other person's trust? What are we looking for to earn the other person's trust? How much can we give right in the start to gain the other person's trust? A good mediation lawyer will always coach his or her client to and encourage them to say, let's give something that's not going to cost us too much so that we can start the mediation. So we can start the mediation on a positive, collaborative note. What can we give? What can we give? What's that small handshake that we can pull out there, right? And that's something you would do, strategizing the client right from the start. Very importantly, you got to let your client know that you are playing the supporting role here. That's very important. Expectations have to be clear, all right? That's very important, once again, with regards to preparation with your client. Thirdly, you got to prepare the mediator, as I said. If your client's going through some mental or emotional stress, you need to tell the mediator that, hey, you got to expect this. This is going to happen. You know, my client's probably gone into a very low phase. You know, he has lost someone in the family. You know, maybe the marriage is falling apart. It could be a lot of things. And you as a lawyer are privy to all this information. If you don't tell the mediator this in private and in confidence, then the mediator is not going to be ready for those emotional outbursts. Now, the mediator is always prepared to listen to any kind of bizarre information that might come on the table, right? The most bizarre information, like people come and say, you know, in the previous birth, I was a dinosaur, and then you don't know how to respond to that, right? So it could be the most bizarre things that people say at the table, but we are always ready for anything. But still, as a lawyer, it's your duty to tell the mediator, listen, this is what my client's state of mind is right now. So just letting you know, so that, you know, in case there's a situation like this, you got to be ready to help us out. Okay. So once the preparation is done, you still work with the mediator with other things. You know what? My client does not want to face the other person, and he does not care whether it's on Zoom. He still feels like he's in the same room with the other person, right? So, you know, no ways we're getting into a joint session. We have to have only private sessions. So that's what the lawyer helps out with, because the lawyer tells the mediator right from the start, this is how we want to design it. Okay. And who will be participating besides me, my client? Maybe my client's you know, wife will be there. Maybe my client's mother will be there. Maybe my client's financial advisor, chartered accountant, whoever it is. Make sure you let the mediator know who's coming. Don't ambush the other side. Okay, let the other side know who's coming. We have seen in commercial private mediations, many mediations actually fall apart. Many mediations get rescheduled and postponed because one client agrees to come with one lawyer, and the other client also agrees to come with one lawyer, their lawyer. And then suddenly on the mediation day, party A has come with the lawyer, party B has come with 5-6 other people. It's like a whole, you know, entire litany of people. The entire village is there, and you know that feels like an ambush. And if you want to ruin the mediation, then that's you know, that's going to cause problems. So let the other side know who exactly is coming, right? So that everyone is clear about understanding what their roles are. That is something that you want to do as a good mediation lawyer. You want to discuss with the mediator what are the important documentation that needs to be provided. What is the documentation that requires, so that we get all our facts straight. You know, we've been speaking to a lot of mediation lawyers of late, and we at CAMP in Bangalore have been really pushing for mediation advocacy. This year, 2021, we are celebrating something called as, we call it CALM, Celebrating Advocates and Lawyers in Mediation, CALM. Okay, we're calling it the Year of CALM. We finally want to recognize what the role of the you know, the lawyer is. And as we're speaking to so many lawyers who are representing clients in mediation, right? We've recently started a column on Live Law where we talk to mediation lawyers who have represented clients in mediation, and they talk about their experiences. And they all say one thing when you talk to them. They say, once we get our facts straight, and once we get both of us to agree on what has happened, once the facts are clear, half the job is done. Then it's all about finding solutions to the facts, because the problem lies in the facts. And if both parties say, okay, you know what, that happened. Yes, that happened. Now, how do we fix that? Sometimes they say that many times, especially in commercial disputes, then it's easier to move ahead. And therefore, documentation is important. What are the documents that are required to make sure you're helping the other side and also helping the mediator to get the facts straight? Okay. And lastly, and most importantly, as part of the process designing, you have the responsibility to help your client with fixing the date, the time, the place, the most convenient place to have this mediation, right? I did miss out on one point, and that's a very crucial point again. As a lawyer, you also have an understanding of what the industry is like. You have an understanding of what a mediator should be like. A good mediation lawyer, a lawyer who's trained, who's skilled, who's certified to be a lawyer in mediation, will know exactly how to choose a mediator. You need to make sure you find the right mediator. If you're not going through an ad hoc mediation, then you need to choose a private mediation institute like CAMP, right? So you have an institute like CAMP that has a panel of different mediators, and there are different kinds of institutions in different parts of the country, right? We have so many private mediation institutes in India, and I'm not going to take out any other names because I might miss out on one, and I'm going to be held for that. So I'm just going to talk about the work that we do, right? And the Mediation Institute, the benefits of having a Mediation Institute backing you. Now, once you know you have a Mediation Institute backing you, you just can't say to the case manager, you know what, give me your top mediator. No, Laila Olappally is now our lead mediator at CAMP, but there might be a case where Laila might need assistance on a particular situation. Laila always admits that she is not the best at technology, right? And say it's a high-tech mediation case, right? Laila has all the skills that she needs to help them break an impasse, to move them from positions to interest, to brainstorm with them solutions, to do reality testing with them. She has all those skills, but she might require someone who has a bit of, a tech background, someone who is maybe part of the IT industry to be her co-mediator. And that's the role. So you as a lawyer will say, you know what, we really like Laila ma'am as the lead mediator, but let's have XYZ as the co-mediator, right? Laila ma'am's Hindi is not the best, right? So you might have two parties who speak complete Shuddh Hindi, right? And therefore you might say, as a lawyer, I want Laila as the lead mediator, but let's have Push as the co-mediator. And I'm assuming here that Push's Hindi is better than Laila's. All right. So, that way we kind of, the lawyer works together to make sure that the right mediators are at the table, so that the client is benefited and it's not a wasted process, right? So these are the different roles and different responsibilities that a lawyer has much before the mediation begins, okay? So those are the few thoughts that I want to leave you with, and in case you have any questions, because I know we are hitting the 1 hour mark, and we really can't do an entire course on mediation advocacy in 1.5 hours. But yes, if you want to do something more advanced, Push will direct you all to the right places and wherever you all need to go and find that. But this is my few, the few things that I've learned over the last few years. And I once again, I'm grateful for this opportunity to share this with you, and I'm open to any questions at this point of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for a great lesson.
I'm just going to share a couple of blog posts in the chat box, and when you'll have the time, you can go through this. There's so much of literature and that's out there that you can go and explore as the role of the lawyer in mediation. And what we're really reaching out to the community right now, we want to really build this. We will not be able to get private mediation going in India without the lawyers. That's the truth. And the faster we get the buy-in from the lawyers, the faster we make them realize that they have a very important seat at the table, the faster we can get mediation going forward. All right. I think the myth, or the misunderstanding rather, is that the lawyer has no role in the mediation. The lawyer has no seat at the mediation table, which is absolutely wrong. Okay? And that's what you will see in private mediation, especially institutional private mediation, that there is a specific role, a specific seat at the mediation table for the lawyer. Right? And that awareness needs to come out. And thank you to EMW and everyone else who is really making this work. I think we need to really push this forward over the next few years.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Students, you can please, Hari sir, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions from the students?
They are all happy to have their special seat in mediation, as Jonathan has said. They were unaware of this importance, that as lawyer, they can have a special seat in mediation. So Jonathan has given them a very green picture that even if advocacy, the preparation remains the same, be it for advocacy or for advocacy mediation. Thank you, Jonathan. Laila ma'am, your words, every word means so much to us, and especially the sentence you use, don't poison the well. That's really such an important line for us to remember while preparing for mediation or while participating in mediation as an advocate. That really speaks volume as to our role in mediation, advocate's role. It has to be as supportive cast as Jonathan has said. Wonderful.
In fact, I want to add to what Jonathan said about the importance of advocates. I think they play a very crucial role in mediation. When I get into a room and I look at the advocates, I know clearly where the mediation will go. They really have, because the advocates have the complete trust of the parties. The mediator is the neutral. And when that advocate knows how to guide the parties, there is certainly an 80% chance of success. But if the advocate doesn't know, oh my God, it's so hard. So I would, Jonathan knows, I would say, please don't get me mediations where there are no advocates. We need advocates in mediation.
Yeah, I just want to give another example of this understanding the fact that you do have a seat at the table and you do have a role. We had an inquiry come in not less than 48 hours ago, where someone who is actually trained as a mediator, she actually called us up and she said that she has a client who wants her to be a mediator in a case, in a dispute that he has. So this particular mediator, she has a friend who has a dispute, and this friend says, you know what, please be a mediator and help me solve this case. And so she called us in and she said, hey, I want to mediate this case at camp. And we said, absolutely, no worries, let's bring it in. And we were ready to help her out. But then we explained to her that what happens, and as Laila was saying, as you already know this person, you have a familiarity with this person, there's an acquaintance that has built up with this person. See, you can be fair. You can say, and you can actually even prove that you are fair, that you are unbiased, that you are neutral, that you're impartial, and that's absolutely great. You can always prove it. But even for a slight second, you slip, because we're all human and we will slip. And Laila will admit, as a mediator for even 15 years, she has had places where she has slipped. All of us will admit that we slip. But the chances of the parties giving you a second chance, all right, somebody doesn't like my voice. The chances of the parties giving you a second chance are higher because you are a neutral. But if you are already acquainted to that person and then you slip up, that mediation can end within seconds. Okay, so we spoke to this person and we said, I hear what you're saying and I hear what your friend is saying. Why does your friend want you to be the mediator in this case? Why? What's the reason? And she said, because he trusts me. because he knows that I will take care of his interest, because I will make sure that he gets the right, he gets justice, and make sure that he is basically not being bullied at the table. So I was like, that's fair enough. But when you make sure that only he's not bullied, when you make sure that only he gets justice, are you really being a mediator, or are you ending up being his mediation lawyer or his counsel? And that's when the realization grew in, and we said, hey, you can still be part of this mediation. Tell your friend that you can still be part of this mediation, that you can be by his side, you can counsel him the right way, you can get him the best solutions possible. You will make sure he's not bullied at the mediation table. But you cannot be the neutral, because if you become the neutral, this is all that he will expect from you, because those are the expectations he has from you, and you can't do that as a mediator. You have to be neutral to both sides. You have to be impartial to both sides. And that's when the realization grew in, and she said, you know what, that makes sense. I'm going to bring in this case, and I'm going to represent my client as a mediation. So sometimes we don't realize that until we really work this out. We reach out to the institute, we then understand, okay, there is a bias there. We know that there are a lot of trained mediators who get cases, who are also lawyers. They get cases, they try and mediate this themselves. And fair game, if you can do it and you can help people who are in distress, who are we to stop you, right? We can't stop someone. If you have helped two people get out of their stressful lives and solve their problems, great. But the chances of that happening are very, very less, because at some point of time, you will lose your neutrality if the person who is acquainted with you expects you to be by his side or be by her side at any cost. They expect you to make sure you bring them justice. And therefore, that's a bit tricky out there. And therefore, you need to decide right from the start. Do you want to be, as a lawyer, do you want to be the mediator, or do you want to be the counsel? And if you already know the person, then it's better if you be the counsel, and you can still be part of this amazing mediation process, because you are still playing a huge role in it. And that's what we're really trying to convince lawyers at this point of time. And the more they understand that, the better it is. Also, from a financial point of view, as a lawyer, you can charge much more than a mediator at this point in India. So that's the truth. So all you young lawyers there who want to one day litigate and be in court, you know what? There's not much money in mediation right now. Let me tell you that, unless you're Laila Olappally, right? In that case, it's a little different. But for the rest of us who are just getting started, it's difficult. And therefore, you can make more money as a mediation lawyer, as a good mediation lawyer, as an honest mediation lawyer. So think about that. That's my teaser to you.
Yes.
So Michael would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Michael, you can unmute yourself. Michael, you have a question?
Yes, sir. In fact, I have one question, sir. So let's say that there are two parties seeking divorce, sir. So can they approach camp even before going to the family court?
Absolutely. We have had a lot of those kind of cases come in. That's basically you filing for a mutual consent divorce instead of going in for something that's already gone to court, and you're fighting it and you're contesting it. You're contesting each person's claims. A lot of times you have spouses filing criminal complaints against each other, and that causes even more tension, and it escalates the dispute to a much more I would say hostile stage. So you can always reach out to camp much before that, and we will mostly advise you to bring in your lawyers. What happens in a lot of cases is that, especially when it's a very private, very emotional case, parties decide to start the mediation on their own, and after 3-4 sessions, when the hostility has decreased, they then say, you know what, now we are bringing in our lawyers to help us out with securing the deal. So once the tension is removed, because the lawyers, good mediation lawyers can take care of tension, but if you're not a trained mediation lawyer, you want to know how to take care of tension. and therefore you might disrupt the process. So a lot of parties feel like, you know what, let's first get rid of the tension with the mediator, and once the tension is removed, we'll bring in our lawyers and they can help us iron out the settlement. So that's also fine. But as Laila was just saying earlier, our first thing we do is we ask the parties, do you have a lawyer? And it would be best if you have a lawyer by your side.
Yes,
Laila, do you want to add to that?
I think you've done well, Jonathan. And always remember, negotiation in mediation is under the shadow of the law. So the lawyers are required to constantly remind the parties what is the law. Then they take a decision under the shadow of the law. So that's why lawyers are a very important part of mediation.
So Sanjay has a doubt regarding the fee structure of the mediator. Sanjay, you can unmute yourself for further clarification.
Sanjay, good question. So I'll take this one and maybe Laila can add to it, but different mediators have different fee structures. I cannot speak for everyone else. As I say, I can only speak for what we follow back here in Bangalore at CAMP. So we have in-house mediators and we have external mediators. We have a set fee structure. We have an administrative fee that goes straight to CAMP, and then there's the mediator fee, right? These are public, this is already public information. We have mediators who charge anything between 5,000 rupees to 15,000 rupees an hour for a mediation. It depends on the value of the case. It depends on, the admin fees depends on the value of the case. The mediator fees does not change. So that is a set fee structure. Can that be negotiated? Well, we normally leave that up to the mediators. Suppose we never want to have money come in the way of getting them access to the mediation. So we leave that up to the mediators. The mediators want to kind of bring it down from 15 to 13 or 10 to 9, whatever it is. That is always up to the mediators. But there's no negotiation on the admin fee. The admin fee is a particular fee that we charge, and then there's a mediator fee that we also charge. Now, who pays this? At CAMP, we encourage both parties to split it equally. But there are times when one party says, you know what, I know that the other person cannot afford this, so I'm going to pay like 75% of it and let the other party pay 25% of it. Or sometimes they say, I'll just pay the whole of it. It really depends on that. But we do not get involved in that. That's their internal negotiation, how they want to pay. Yep. I hope that answers your question.
So he also asked, is there any prescribed ethics to be followed?
With fee structure?
Yes, sir.
I think so.
Yes, sir. Is there any ethics to be followed? I mean, prescribed ethics to be followed while fixing the fee?
Well, I am not aware of anything of that sort, but I think as long as we are transparent, that's how we proceed. There's another thing that we follow at CAMP, because we have packages that we ask parties to, we do it differently for different parties. It depends on how they like to go ahead. Sometimes what they do is they pay up for 10 hours in advance, and then they start the mediation. So if they just use 8 hours or 9 hours, then, and if they request a refund, then we give it across to them. So that is something that we are very transparent and open with that. There are other ways where, they finish the sessions first and they pay later. So it really depends. We also get cases referred to by the Supreme Court and the High Court, where the court sets the fee right in the start. The court will say, CAMP is going to be mediating this. The mediation fees is 1 lakh, 2 lakh, or whatever it is, 50,000. It depends on that. So that's already set. So in that case, it's it's already been determined. But I am not aware of any ethics with regards to fee structure. I think for us, where we draw the line is we have to be transparent right from the start. They need to know how much they're investing right from the start. I think that's, as long as we do that, I think it's fair game then. But Laila ma'am, you can add to that, please, if you want.
Yeah, Jonathan is right. We allow market conditions to determine the fees. In the Commercial Courts Act, which says that pre-mediation is mandatory, there are certain fees that are prescribed. The law itself prescribes certain fees. But in private mediation, no, we don't do that. Unless, of course, it is a case from the pre-mediation, commercial mediation law.
So, ma'am, Ravichandra has a question. How to recognize as a mediator after completion of his law graduation? Is there any special training or EMW classes is enough to become?
Should I take that? Today, there is, if you want to be a private mediator, there is nothing that prevents you from becoming a mediator after your EMW class. But if you want to be a court annex mediator, there is a requirement. You should have 10 years or 15 years, depending on each state, number of years, and the court has to select you. So there are certain requirements. But otherwise, private mediation, no. Not yet. When the law comes, there might be.
Thank you so much.
If any of you have any more questions, you can ask. Ma'am, so Sanjay has another doubt. Can I incorporate mediation work as OPC?
What's OPC?
One person company.
One?
1% company. Right?
Oh.
1% company.
Yeah. In your agreement, yes. You can have mediation in all the agreements that you enter into. You can say that parties, in case of a dispute, parties agree that they will mediate, and if mediation fails, then they'll move into arbitration or litigation. So anybody can take those kind of decisions.
Is there any more doubts?
Right. So, Pushpa madam, from the questions our students put forth at the end, can we consider them that this Gen Next classes are giving them some energy, some inputs, making them stabilize themselves, and they're making them as mediators?
Excuse me, sir. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Oh,
Sanjay has another doubt. Ma'am, during mediation, can I engage external professional or opinion?
Absolutely, absolutely. Mediation is informed decision making. So whoever brings that additional information to help parties reach a resolution, you can bring in those people, of course, in consultation with the mediator, and that's part of the designing and structuring pre-mediation. Sometimes we need financial consultants. Recently, I did a mediation where they wanted to bring in a management consultant. So, or you can bring in an aunt or an uncle who can help you take a decision. Whoever helps in that resolution can be brought in.
Ma'am, the other question, will the external opinion bind the law in the mediation?
What do you mean by bind the law? Any mediation becomes binding only when the enforcement is first, the parties can agree to make it a contract, or if they want it even more binding, they can agree to make it a conciliator settlement agreement. If it is a case that is pending in court, it goes back into the court and the court passes a decree on that agreement. But I can't, I'm not able to understand, will it bind the law? I mean, that's not, it's not a precedent. A mediated settlement agreement is a settlement agreement. It's not a decree of the court. There's no precedent created or any of that with a mediated settlement.
Thank you, ma'am. Janardhan sir has also replied for that question. Thank you so much, sir. Any more doubts?
Yeah, just feel free to reach out to us at any point of time. Laila ma'am stays away from LinkedIn, but if you want to be have more access to her, you'll probably have to intern with us. But yes, I'm available on LinkedIn, and I'm available to answer any questions with regards to camp at any point of time. Stay in touch, and thank you so much.
Thank
you
you
so much, sir.
for the opportunity.
Thank you. Hari sir, over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Laila, Olappally madam, and Janardhan, for your patience answering our students. Really, they have, I feel they have got all answers for their that is for their futuristic ideology or whatever they are choosing tomorrow. And finally, you conclude, ma'am. Madam, are we concluded?
Yes, thank you, Laila ma'am. Thank you so much once again for this yet again a very learning good experience for us also, a learning how to conduct ourselves as advocate, because during pandemic, because of online mediation, we have rather forgot our role as advocates. So today we relived our life as advocate also, and we are happy that we have a special seat in mediation. Jonathan, that word is registered there in my mind, and I will be using those lines. So there is no piracy in that. Please allow me to preach that. And thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much for taking out time. And as rightly said by Jonathan, in case you want to reach out for any clarification, Jonathan is very active with students on LinkedIn and otherwise. Yes, Laila ma'am is always there, but we can reach out to Laila ma'am through Jonathan, because ma'am has many other things to take care of. A lot of prestigious matters are there before her. So, but once again, thank you on behalf of everyone here, ma'am, and Jonathan, on behalf of EMW. Jonathan, you were saying something. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say there is no piracy in mediation, only privacy.
Yes, correct. That's again a bullet from Jonathan. Huh? Good.
For students, I have a small word. Dear students,